Okay, let's really unpack this. Imagine for a second, you're the CEO of a massive, a 150-year-old food company. You're a giant.
A total giant. You sell coffee, chocolate, powdered drinks.
You sell comfort in a jar, basically.
Uh-huh.
But the world around you is just, it's shifting. Your customers are getting older, and tech is starting to invade the kitchen in ways nobody saw coming.
It's the classic innovator's dilemma, isn't it? You're huge, but that size makes it hard to move quickly.
Exactly. So the core question is, how do you transform from a company that sells jars of instant coffee into an agile digital health and wellness player?
And that's exactly what Nestlé had to figure out.
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting. They didn't start this experiment in Silicon Valley.
Nope.
They didn't start it in Switzerland. They started in Japan.
Which is so fascinating because Japan isn't just another market in this story. It's effectively a laboratory for the future.
A laboratory for the whole developed world. And that is what we're diving into today. We've got a detailed business case study here. It's called Nestlé, developing a digital nutrition platform for Japan.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to look at their pivot between roughly 2016 and 2018. We're talking partnerships, navigating some strange government laws.
Yes, really. Waistline measuring laws.
And fending off some very nimble little startups.
It's really a masterclass in how a legacy company tries to learn new tricks. And the stakes are so high because the demographic trends they're facing in Japan, they're coming for the rest of us.
So let's start right there with the setting.
Yeah.
You called Japan a laboratory, and the numbers in this case study are just staggering. We hear about aging populations all the time, but Japan is on another level.
It's extreme. To put it in perspective, the source material says that back in 2014, 25% of the Japanese population was over the age of 65.
1 in 4 people.
1 in 4. And the projections. By 2050, that number is expected to hit almost 39%.
That's not just getting older. That is a fundamental rewiring of your entire consumer base. If you're selling food, your market is literally aging out of its old habits. Older people generally eat less.
Exactly. Japan has the highest ratio of senior citizens in the world. For a company like Nestlé, that's a crisis. You can't just sell more stuff. Volume growth is basically impossible.
But it's also a huge opportunity, right? Because these aren't just, old people. The case study points to a specific segment they call the healthy elderly.
I love that term.
Who are they specifically?
Well, this group makes up about a quarter of all households. They're retired, they have stable pension income, and often they're caring for their grandchildren. So they have time and they have some disposable income.
And crucially, they care a lot about their health.
That's the key. Despite Japan's long-term economic stagnation, where GDP was flat for years, spending on healthy food actually went up.
So people were cutting back elsewhere, but not on their health.
Exactly. But the government wasn't just sitting on the sidelines watching this happen. Which brings us to one of the most surprising things in this whole deep dive.
The Metabo Law. I had to read that twice to make sure I was making it up.
Oh, it's very real, and it sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
So for everyone listening, this law from 2008 essentially mandated that citizens between the ages of 40 and 74
have their waistlines measured every single year.
Mandatory waistline checks. It's so intense.
It is intense, but when you connect it to the bigger picture, it actually makes sense. Japan has a nationalized healthcare system. As that population ages, the cost of treating chronic diseases is going to just explode.
So they're trying to shift from treatment to prevention.
Exactly. They're playing defense. They're targeting metabolic syndrome, obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes. If they can catch those risk factors early, literally by measuring your waist, they can save billions down the road.
So you have a population that is now, by law, hyper-aware of their biometric data. That creates a very different kind of consumer.
A highly educated one. The case study mentions that Japanese consumers actively use government databases to research ingredients. They treat the grocery store almost like a pharmacy.
Which brings us to the rules of the game. If Nestlé wants to sell a product that says, this helps with high blood pressure, they can't just slap a sticker on the jar.
Not easily, and this is where the regulatory environment becomes a huge part of the story. For years, Japan had a system called Fo-Oshu-U.
Fo-Oshu-U. It sounds like a sneeze.
It stands for Food for Specified Health Uses, and it was incredibly strict. To make a health claim, you had to run these huge government-approved clinical trials for every single product.
That sounds incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
And slow.
Both. The case study notes that in 25 years, only about 1,200 products ever got approved. It was a massive bottleneck.
But then, around in 2015, things changed. The case study talks about a new category, FFC.
Right, foods with function claims. This was a total game changer. The government pushed this reform to stimulate the market, and under FFC, the responsibility shifted from the government to the manufacturer.
So no more government-run clinical trials before you launch.
You still needed scientific evidence, but you didn't need the government to sign off on the trial beforehand. You could just submit your evidence and go to market 60 days later.
That's a huge difference in speed.
It's night and day. The result was an explosion of new products. In just the first year of FFC, 440 new claims were approved.
Wow. So in 1 year, they did almost a third of what took Fososhu 25 years.
Exactly. And for a company like Nestlé, this was the green light. It meant they could finally move fast and target specific health needs without getting bogged down in red tape. It turned a wall into a doorway.
Okay, so the door is open. Nestle has the products, they have the market, but they wanted to go further. They didn't just want to sell products, they wanted to sell services and solutions. This is where the tech comes in.
This is the real pivot. Nestlé realized the value wasn't just in the coffee powder anymore. It was in the experience and the data around it.
Let's talk about the matcha example first, because this sounds different than just buying a box of tea.
It was a direct-to-consumer play. Customers would go online and answer a really detailed questionnaire about their habits, sleep, diet, lifestyle, and based on that, they'd get a customized wellness matcha blend.
So it's personalization. Tell us your problems, we'll give you the tea.
It is, but it also proved a really important hypothesis for them. It proved that Japanese consumers were willing to trade personal data for a real health benefit.
But the real sci-fi moment for me was the coffee machine, the barista eye.
The barista eye. This is a classic example of the Internet of Things, or IoT. On the surface, it's just a coffee maker connected to your phone.
Which, let's be honest, usually sounds like a total gimmick. Oh, I can brew coffee from my bedroom. Who really cares? They turned it into something else.
They really did. They looked at that elderly demographic and they realized that for that group, the simple act of making coffee is a data point. It's a sign of life.
This is the Nescafe Connect idea. This part actually got me.
So imagine an elderly woman living alone in a rural part of Japan. Her kids are in Tokyo. There's a lot of anxiety about isolation.
So how does the coffee machine help?
When she makes her morning coffee, the machine logs it. And through an app, her family in the city gets a little notification. Mom just brewed her morning cup.
That's actually really brilliant. It's not intrusive. You don't have to call every morning and ask, "Are you okay?" But you know she's up and about.
It's a passive safety check. It turns a consumer appliance into an elderly monitoring device. And they even partnered with Sony to add voice commands.
Right, for seniors who might struggle with a smartphone screen.
Exactly. So the coffee machine becomes this communication hub for the family. It's genius because it locks you into their ecosystem, but it also provides a genuine social service.
They were selling peace of mind, not just caffeine.
That's the solutions strategy in a nutshell.
There was also mention of using AI to analyze photos of food.
Yes, that was in the pipeline. The idea that you could snap a photo of your lunch and an AI would analyze it and give you dietary advice. It's that next step from, here's a product to let me help you manage your health.
But that brings us to the big complication here. Data. To give real advice, you need real data.
Right.
And historically, Japan's medical data was, well, a mess.
Fragmented is being polite. For a long time, their electronic medical record systems were all incompatible. Nothing talked to each other. Your data was trapped at your local clinic.
But that was starting to change.
Yes, the government launched a database called People.
Wait, how do you spell that?
It's all strange. Capital P, little e, capital OPL, little e.
Catchy.
Very. But the goal was ambitious, to integrate all health data from birth to death by 2020. This opened the door for big data in nutrition.
And this is where the competition really heats up. Nestle wasn't the only one looking at this. You have startups like Zipongo and Neutrino.
And these companies were not playing around with lifestyle surveys. They were going straight for medical data.
So take Zipongo. They're a U.S. company,
Yeah.
and their model is B2B, right? They work with employers.
Essentially, yes. Your boss signs you up to lower the company's insurance premiums. Zipongo uses biometric screenings, blood pressure, cholesterol, right there in the office. And then they generate grocery lists for you based on that data.
That's very direct. We checked your cholesterol, it's high. Buy this broccoli.
It is. And then you have Neutrino, an Israeli startup. They focused on diabetes. They partnered with medical device companies like Abbott.
The ones who make the continuous glucose monitors, the little patches you wear on your arm.
Correct. So Neutrino's app would take the data straight from that monitor and pair it with what you ate. It could tell you in real time that bagel you had for breakfast just spiked your blood sugar.
That is incredibly specific, medical-grade feedback. It's connecting cause and effect in your own body.
It removes all the guesswork.
So this brings Nestlé to a crucial decision. They see these startups using blood data, glucose data. Did Nestlé jump in? Did they start asking for blood samples with your coffee order?
No, they didn't. And this is a really important distinction the case study makes. The Nestlé Japan manager, Akiko Kumagai, was very clear on this. They deliberately chose not to use sensitive biocentric data.
Why not? If that's where the most accurate advice comes from.
Because of trust. Do you, as a consumer, trust a food company with your DNA or your blood work? Nestlé felt that handling that kind of data was a privacy risk that was just too high.
It's the creepiness factor.
It is. They're a food company, not your doctor. They felt that if they crossed that line, they could destroy a 150-year-old brand. One data breach of medical records could be fatal.
That's a fascinating line to draw in the sand. It highlights this tension between hyper-personalization on one side and consumer trust on the other.
Exactly. So Nestlé stayed in the wellness lane, relying on what you tell them, while the startups were racing ahead in the medical lane, relying on what your body tells them.
So let's just recap this journey. We started with this demographic crisis in Japan. The government steps in with waistline measurements and new regulations, opening the floodgates.
And Nestlé responds by pivoting from just selling products to building platforms. They use the new FFC rules to launch things faster, and they use IoT, like the coffee maker, to solve social problems like elderly isolation.
But they stopped short of becoming a medical company. They stayed in the kitchen, not the clinic.
It's a strategic choice. They focused on wellness and quality of life instead of treatment.
Which leaves them with some really big questions. Do they build a closed system where they only recommend Nestlé products? Or do they become an open platform, like an operating system for nutrition?
That's the big Apple versus Android question for the food world. If Nestlé recommends a competitor's yogurt because it's better for you, they become a trusted advisor.
But if they only ever recommend Nestlé yogurt,
And they're just a salesman with an app. And you, the consumer, will see right through that.
and that temptation to cross into medical data is only going to get stronger as these big national databases come online.
It absolutely is. The convergence of food and medicine is happening. The tech is dragging them together, whether they want to go there or not.
It really leaves you with a provocative thought, doesn't it? As these technologies merge, are we ready for a world where your grocery list is automatically generated by your medical records?
And where your smart fridge reports your eating habits back to your insurance company.
Sorry, your premiums are going up. The fridge says you bought too much ice cream this month.
It sounds like a dystopian movie, but it's the logical conclusion of where this case study is pointing. Japan is the laboratory, and the results of this experiment are going to affect all of us.
Well, on that slightly chilling note, we hope this deep dive gave you a glimpse into how the future of food is being written. It's not just about taste anymore, it's about data.
It's definitely a space to watch.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.